All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling you guys I'm going to bring on, for lack of a better term, really fucking cool ass agency owners. So I got Robert Segelquist here with you, the silly quist himself. And actually, we were just bonding a little bit here off camera because we both have like the complete opposite backgrounds of like marketing backgrounds. Like he's from Houston and everybody lives and breathes and dies in the oil industry. And where I'm from, it's the automotive industry. So we both escaped that kind of factory, industrial kind of shithole and went basically as far the other direction as you can. And he's got something really cool that I've been preaching at you guys this for a while is the idea that where most people get stuck in terms of like even just being able to grow their agency at all is the offer is like they have a what I call a Me Too offer, which is in his case he works with e-commerce brands, and so many of the people working with e-commerce brands are all about we run Facebook ads. Well, me too, me too, me too. Well, I do better Facebook ads. Me too, me too. I do even better than the last guy did it.
I got a 6.5 ROAS.
Exactly, and it makes it so hard because not only do they can't tell the difference between a good and a bad one, but they also, in order to hire you, would have to fire somebody else in most cases and give you access, and it's just complicated. And so, what a much easier way to build an agency is doing something that's an add-on to what they're already doing, and Robert's actually built that. So, for those who don't know you, can you tell me just how you do a little bit of add-on, and then we'll talk about like why that's so damn cool.
What I add on or how I add on?
Um, Really, anywhere you want to go with it that you think would be
Yeah.
somebody to hear.
So as Frankie introduced me, I'm Robert. I'm an email guy. And so as you mentioned the whole, front end Facebook ads, everybody wants to fight over that. Well, everybody's leaving the back end alone because it's really easy to look at the front numbers and go, oh, I can make those numbers better. Well, I can make money that you didn't even know you were making in your business. And so it's an add-on. And that's a good way to put it. It's an add-on service of, hey, you're doing this. Let's add this little piece on and make it better for you. And then that actually fuels the front end because in direct response, when you're studying your market, your money just kind of does this, and then it just does this, and then it just does this, and then it just.
Yes, those are some.
You got.
That's him riding a bull right there for 3 seconds and getting thrown off, which is 2.5 seconds longer than I would. Yes, you said some really brilliant things. And actually, when I worked with lawyers, I saw this in the beginning. I worked with a lot of the kind of beginners struggling or the old lawyers who had never done marketing and like finally needed to get into it because they couldn't depend on referrals forever.
Right.
And they had considered always like running ads on TV, and they would say, such and such lawyer, and they would name the 800-pound gorilla in their area. I think in your area, it's Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer.
How did you? That's good. That's impressive.
I know Jim Adler quite well, actually.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you who don't know, he's quite an interesting character because he spends $25 million a year on TV ads throughout the state of Texas, and most of them are like him angry, standing out on a truck going, "Insurance companies need to be hammered." And he's actually in real life the most quietest, soft-spoken guy you'll ever meet, which is the exact opposite of the character he plays on TV.
Yeah.
But interesting enough is when I got to work with like the Jim Adlers, they often had like their back end, just like Robert's describing, in place. And so they knew if they spent $6,000 to get a $6,000 client, well, they could turn that into referrals. They could turn that into more cases, and they would make money on the second and the third and the fourth deal. So they could actually make $0 on deal one, but they knew because their back end was in place that they could outspend everybody on the front end. And so it's really interesting how you've positioned your add-on because it actually enables people to be better at their front end. Can you just describe a little bit of how that works with your clients and how they're able to like actually invest more into Facebook ads when they pick up?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been hitting right. Let's just easy numbers. Let's say you're getting a 3x ROAS, right? You go out, you spend $1 on ads, you make $3 on a sale. Very, very basic model. We're not getting into cost of goods and everything else, right? Well, we go back and we say, hey, let's do better abandoned cart for those people. And all of a sudden you're getting a 3.5 or a 4 ROAS. So all of a sudden you've got 20% more money to play with that you can run more ads with. And if you're running $5,000 in ads a month, now we're running $6,000 in ads a month. And it very quickly escalates and scales at that rate because it's just, you're increasing what you're selling because you're spending this much to make a sale. But if I can get you this my fingers aren't working right. You're spending this much to make
Yeah,
this much.
the right hand's the add-on, just for the people keeping score at home.
Yeah.
The
So you're
extra
spending
money.
this much already and you're making this much. Well, now we add abandoned cart into it. And so now you're making this much on that same ad spend. And so it's just a cyclical thing that the more you put in the front, the more comes out the back. And it exponentially increases everything because it's adding on to what you're already doing. I feel like I'm just drawing weird
Yeah, I love
scribbles.
your drawing. So, well, maybe I'll put some like John Madden notes over the video. We can just like circle things, like a quarterback over here. He's good. Yeah, I mean, what you said is really quite brilliant, and it's interesting too because I can tell you, just like having worked in those kind of agencies, if you're doing the front end where you're managing Facebook ads and your goal is to try and cut cost 20%, you're gonna fucking work 100 times harder than Robert is in order to find 20% that they haven't picked up. And there's this thing where business owners are almost always most obsessed about their front end numbers. And so when you're in that role, they also watch you like a hawk. And when you're the guy just adding a little abandoned card sequence of just adding gravy, nobody's going, why is your abandoned card sequence only performing at 15%? Because everything you do is a bonus. I would love for you to talk just about, not just about how, it's free money for them, but actually how, like, the way you're seen as this cool guy who's adding extra money instead of this guy who's like can't get the ads cheap enough and it's always like the whipping boy for the performance, which I'm
So
sure you've had.
there's a number floating around, and I think it's 44. I think it's every dollar spent on email marketing is $44 returned is the quote unquote market number. And I don't know how that was derived or anything. But yeah, so your back end stuff, there's no cost to run abandoned cart sequence. There's no cost to run an upsell sequence. You're paying $100 a month for Active Campaign or $100 for Clavio or whatever, but that is a set fixed cost, as opposed to ads where you're spending $100 a day, $150 a day, $200 a day. From the back end, I can send as many email and it depends on what system you're using, so don't quote me exactly to this, but I can send as many emails as I want with no additional work because they're just set up to run. So we go in and we set up an abandoned cart sequence today, and it starts firing tonight or this afternoon, and you get 100 people today in your system that don't buy, then 100 people are getting the next emails for the next week. You never did anything extra to do that. You're just paying $100 a month for Clavio to run. And so, whereas you're watching people on the front end and saying, well, I'm spending money and not seeing a return, on the back end, it really is just, hey, those are ticking up. Hey, we're getting a few more sales here and there. Hey, and it's just adding in that extra sale that you're not chasing. You're just letting the sale happen because it's following up with somebody you already acquired as a prospect. And that's, I think, a bigger thing is a lot of brands, they're focused on the front end and the front end conversion rates, and they forget the people that didn't convert can still be collected as customers.
Yeah.
So you've already paid to acquire somebody as a prospect. Let's go ahead and turn them into a customer so that you can make money off of them.
Yeah, can I just add, because what you said was like particularly brilliant for anybody listening to this. If your agency doesn't deal with e-com and you think, oh, I don't have abandoned carts, this doesn't apply to me. I promise you, if you're working with a dentist, there are very similar things, such as somebody calls on the phone, asks about a procedure, may even book it and not show up. That's like the equivalent of an abandoned cart. And you send them a couple of emails and say, come back in. You will make far more money for that dentist than sending him more Facebook ad people that he can't convert. I would love to hear, by the way, if you're open to sharing just a little bit of your origin story of how you got into that, because I'm sure you're like most of us where you tried doing front end stuff first and pulled out your hair. It's probably why you're wearing a cowboy hat now, because you had no hair left from doing the front end stuff.
Actually, I didn't. I never got into ads. I tiptoed around it a little tiny bit and never dove into it. I was, as you mentioned earlier, I was in the oil industry. I cut my teeth around Houston working in plants and stuff, and realized that I was not a good employee. I've never been one to sit and do a job just because I should do the job that I'm being paid to do. I was like, let's make the job easier or less work, and let's not work 40 hours. And of course, corporate mindset, I pay you for 40 hours. And I'm like, no, you pay me to get a job done. And anyway, so I realized I wasn't a very good employee, set out to start my own business. No, I didn't set out to start my own business. I set out to not be an employee, which is a whole different conversation. But that rolled into the automation space and helping people set up like Zapier, connecting point A and point B and how that works together, and different tech stacks and stuff like that. And I had to learn how to sell that stuff. And that actually rolled into the marketing world and advertising world. And then that rolled into copywriting. And now I'm focused more on that stuff than I am on what I set out to do in the first place.
It's funny how it usually works like that, isn't it?
If you look back, and somebody posted about, one of the big copywriters I follow posted about this the other day, and he was like, look back at the last year and look at the path you followed and project that for next year.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. Like, there's no way that I could. 6 months ago, if you said, Robert, you're going to call yourself a copywriter, I said, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
But here I am, and I'm loving what I do now. So
it's amazing when those side projects become more fun than the main project.
Yep.
Thank God you're not fucking working in oil and gas, I will say, because I experienced many things like that. It's been 14 years since I've had a real job per se, but I can remember I had a co-op job when I was in college, and that's like basically like you work as part of going to your school. And I remember I had a full-time other job, and when I took the school job, I told them like, hey, I got this other full-time thing, which was a more serious prospect for me at the time. It was a Ford Motor Company, and I was a supervisor there. And I remember saying, I might not be able to always do 40 hours. And they said, no problem. And then what I found out is when I actually got hired, the guy who hired me wasn't there. So the guy I was reporting to had a very different opinion. And I remember, like you, I figured all these ways that I could cut my work down to 4 hours a week, and they could just measure me by my output. And they don't like that. They're like, no, we need you here 40 hours a week. And I'm like, but just so you know, I'm just going to sit around for 4 hours a day milking the clock. And they're like, well, we don't want anyone else getting the idea that they can leave early. It's really, we're not meant to be employees. Thank God.
Well, and that's, I'm not knocking employees. Like, everybody has to have a role in life. And if everybody was like us, then there wouldn't be people to sweep floors. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. That's just a fact.
Yeah, somebody needs to sweep the floors. I feel you.
But at the same time, the difference between people like you and I, and probably most everybody watching this right now, and people that have jobs is we have a mindset of get it done. And the corporate mindset is sit here for 40 hours.
Yeah.
And, I hate to say
extra, then they'll want more from you.
Right. And that's what gets me. You punish your hard workers and your good people by giving them more work.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't add up to me. I will never understand. And I got away from the corporate world to go do whatever the hell it is that I think I wanted to do. And then I'm talking to a buddy of mine about starting a super agency. Like, we're talking about chasing some huge numbers. And I was like, the reality of it, though, is after 2 months of that, we're going to have corporate structure in place. Like, we're going to have weekly meetings. We're going to have, and it's not that we want to, but if you're doing that kind of revenue and those kind of personnel numbers, there's a point where you have to have a structure to it, or it's just going to fall apart on you. Yeah. So it's just kind of this, it's like, it's really not a line. It's really just a horseshoe. You left here to go, and you find out that you're going to end up right back over here. So I don't know. We'll see.
And you hit on something pretty amazing for those who haven't been through this journey or just starting it out, or maybe like some of you guys have had to restart and pivot since March. This is entrepreneurship in general, but the agency world is as not linear as it gets. You will often, as you're starting, have like 6 months where you make zero or close to zero and have a single client. And then all of a sudden you'll figure something out and go to 10, 20, 30 grand a month or whatever. And if you get really good at that process, then what happens is you'll start acquiring clients at breaknecking speed, and then you'll break all your delivery systems. Then you'll have a bunch of people unhappy with you about that, and then you'll have to build at breakneck speed your delivery systems. And then at some point, that'll put a stress on your ability to hire people, and then you'll have all kinds of hiring systems. Those are generally good problems to have, but they are actually way more stressful than they sound on the outside looking in.
I feel like a little doggy in the window just nodding my head.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've been there, you get it. And I think it's the same really in any service business. I would love to know your thoughts on how you kind of came up with this add-on. Like, how did you see the opportunity that, man, all these e-commerce guys are leaving so much money on the table because they're focused over here, and that if I just help them build this piece out, it actually makes this piece over here work better. Like, did you stumble into that by accident? Was this something you noticed, or
Can I blame a guru?
Yeah, blame them.
Ian Stanley. He claims he is the $100 million man, and that's really nothing when you start looking at copywriters. But that's his claim to fame right now. He ended up in the email space by happenstance, and I've been following him for a while. And this is basically a model that he figured out, and he's selling a program on it. As goofy as that sounds, so it's you still have to go do it, and that's where a lot of people fall off, because a lot of people buy a course, and I think 90% of people never finish the course they buy. But yeah, it was honest to God, just not even a stolen idea, a bought course that was like, hey, this makes a lot of sense, let's do it. And I've just been running down the road now.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I got into the same kind of thing from a mentor, and he has done a lot of different businesses, but among one of those is he got really good at building up armies of people on ClickBank in the beginning and having all affiliates sell his products. And everybody was like, how do you do it? Thinking the copywriting was the secret. And the secret is what you just described, is knowing the real money was in the back end. And so he could let everybody have all the front end money they wanted and all those things. And he just I just wanted lists and customers. So he was actually the first one, at least that I know of, that he had, I remember it was like, we're going way back in internet marketing, but Frank Kern had a huge launch, and he included a bonus, which was the first person to say, if you buy through my affiliate link, you get this extra bonus. And he was spending just as much ads as he was making on his affiliate list, but he was like, but I acquire a customer who I know buys $2,000 courses, and that's the real asset. And I'm happy to make money on them on sale 2 and sale 3 and sale 4 and sale 5 and keep them around. And curious to know, have you gotten into that with your e-commerce, where you guys are helping them sell product 2 and product 3, or are you strictly focusing on just the easy stuff that's really immediate that they can notice?
Well, that's the whole goal of getting in. And I cold pitch people on abandoned cart sequences because it's an easy hot button. Hey, I can show you one button I can fix in your business. And then once I'm in, it's how do we build an upsell sequence? How do we build a cross-sell sequence? How do we do ongoing list management of, hey, you bought something 6 months ago, but come buy something else now. So yeah, no, there's way more to it than just that front end collection. But again, to the point we were making earlier, once you've acquired that customer, and so many people do this, they buy and they never talk to their customer again. Like, you already bought that customer. You already spent $5 on an ad to get them to buy from you, and they'll buy your product. So why not get them to buy more product from you? And sometimes it's a one-off, like jacuzzis. You're not going to sell, very many jacuzzis to the same person over the course of their lifetime. They might buy 3 from you. But if it's water bottles or coffee mugs or pens or
cool ass cowboy hats.
Hey, you can't buy my cowboy hat. I had no intent of buying this hat the day I bought it. That's a whole other story. But anyway, if it's consumable goods or even stuff that, water bottles, I may only need one water bottle. I've been carrying this bottle for 15 years, literally. But I might want to buy one from my buddy Frankie because he might need a water bottle. So stuff like that. And probably if you're selling these, you're selling other camping and outdoor related gear. So there's other stuff I can buy from you. So yeah, there's all kinds of space to go follow up with your customers and sell them other products or affiliate products. I've got a brand right now that sells a paracord dispensal tool, and we're adding on other camping and outdoor related gear because that's all they sell is this one little package. But we can sell water bottles through affiliate links. We can sell, sleeping bags through affiliate, other camping and outdoor related stuff because it's the same market that would buy that stuff. And that, again, is just easy found money for them because it doesn't cost them anything. They're sending an affiliate link out, making 15, 20, 25% on a sale that they never even saw a product for.
Yeah.
So
that's really powerful. You get the Zoom high five for that. That's a socially distanced high five for those keeping score at home. I really, really dig that. And I think, how I've always explained that to people is 2 things. One is find out what you're really selling, because if they're buying a water bottle, it fits into a greater use. Like you mentioned, it may be for camping, or maybe you're dealing with runners who like to have a drink on the run. When you find out what you're really selling and to who, It actually really opens the door. And then the other
Right.
thing, it sounds so simple, but if you think the only product they're going to buy is yours, then you are really, really fucking mistaken, right? Like I see this in group coaching and things like that. Like if you hire a mentor or a coach, you're probably going to hire 20, 30, 40, 50 over your lifetime. Um, or, more than one anyway. And the idea
Right.
that they're only buying from you is like so much lost opportunity. So I love how you're looking at, hey, how does this fit into the greater scheme of what they're doing? And this is the interesting thing that nobody thinks about in that. It's better for the customer, right? Like it's not just like what you're doing is like, hey, we can pimp them for 15, 20%. Like it saves them time to have to find all those complementary pieces and do
Right.
research and figure out what's good. It's like, hey, no, we get you. We got a special. We've already done the homework. Here it is.
They already know, like, and trust you because they bought your product and had a good experience. And as long
Yeah.
as you continue to give them good products, they will continue to buy those products through you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a different philosophy of treating people like people instead of people like cattle to milk the credit card from. And ironically, you actually milk far more of the credit card when you treat them like people, but you don't see that as the end goal. You see it as like, how can we, and I'm sure you do this with integrity, where you're not like, hey, how can we find the shittiest water bottle with the highest margins? You're like, how
Right.
can we give them something good that actually helps them, and then hey, we'll just make a little cut along the way.
Well, and it's the long-term versus the short-term idea. If I sell you a really shitty water bottle that I make 50% on and you use it 4 times and it breaks, you're probably not going to buy more products from me.
Yeah.
But if I take way less margin and make $1 instead of $6, but you get a water bottle that lasts a while and you go, oh, hey, he's sending me a backpack or he's sending me a sleeping bag, you're more likely to be on board with that product because it's going to be a better experience. You're going to trust me more for that. So, yeah.
And that's, by the way, that's how that number, that for those who don't understand the math, where you mentioned the 44, and I've heard similar numbers, $44 on email. It's not as if you send one email and they give you $44 on day one. It's more like you send an email, this one gets you 50 cents, this one gets you $1. You send 20 in a row, they get you nothing. You send 3 more and you make 5, and collectively over the life of that relationship. And that's a big secret. I know in my agency, my oldest client has been with me since 2009, and it makes the income ups and downs of entrepreneurship like way easier to deal with when like you have like an established base to start the month, and so much of that comes from what you're doing. So I think I've kept you long enough here. I would just ask for anybody who's listening to this and has an e-commerce brand or whatever, is interested in connecting with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Either my profile, tag me in this video, or findlostrevenue.com.
Love it.
If that wasn't an easy enough domain to remember, findlostrevenue.com.
And if you guys are interested in just following me, you can check us out on Amazon. Get the book Beyond Agency Profits as well. You can go to beyondagencyprofits.com, and we got a fancy group called Beyond Agency Profits, and it is about taking your agency beyond and doing exactly what Robert is doing and focusing on the easy money. Why work so goddamn hard on that front end where they're going to treat you like the whipping boy when you can actually get paid a whole bunch more on the back end, and they love you for it because you're a value add instead of an expense you can't get cheap enough at. So love what you're doing, brother, and thank you for doing this.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. It was fun.